So it is here, our first update of the year. With it comes a bunch of updates, including the class changes, which I mentioned yesterday. But there are a few interesting fixes. First of all, to note, many of you may have been getting stuck on the light of the Xeraxis campaign and the boon tasks, wondering why. It says you need to complete Dirty Deceit and you complete it and then you can't get the boon. Well, that is because you need to actually have the campaign completed. So they will add the milestone requirements to the boons, listing them properly. Enemies in heroic encounters will properly get leashed back to their spawn point. Some additional barriers were added to the new trial to prevent people from getting stuck on, geometry. Then future upcoming events with the Day of the Dungeon Master, some fixes with the quests, easier access to the daily mission, now requiring you to be level 2 instead of level 11, and some voice lines being updated. Also with the Feast of Lanterns, that's just coming in February. Comfort for frightened dogs. You should no longer give credit map-wide, so it won't be so easy to complete that, unfortunately. So then all of the class fixes. Barbarian, not so fast, magnitude increase, punishing charge, cooldown reduction, mighty leap, magnitude increase along with a cooldown reduction. That's just the base magnitude increase, does not affect defeated version. With the Blade Master Axe Storm, the cooldown actually did get reduced a teeny bit. I did not notice that. Roar, magnitude increased, and Sentinel Aragon, not so fast, magnitude boost up to 350 with the feat. On the cleric, very nicely, their AoE daily power with the burning patch feat can now hit up to 15 targets rather than just 5. Then all of the fighter class updates. I still need to check these out myself and see how well fighter now plays, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of just improvements here across the board. A bit of a rework with some new mechanics here, like having your block replaced with Forge Ahead now, giving you movement speed and damage immunity. You have Seath, reducing the stamina drain, absorb ratio gone up to 50%. Your new power, Revengeance, being able to absorb damage with Seath and then trigger Revengeance attack, dealing 500 magnitude in a cone. And then a bunch of other mechanics here to basically drain Vengeance but deal extra damage. So it'll be a balance of how well you can manage your Vengeance, because you'll still want to be over that 50% to get the 20% extra damage. And there is some bugs though with like Landwasher feat basically consuming 50 Vengeance per enemy you hit rather than just upon one activation. That's the same with Executioner's Cut feat. Basically it's going to drain 5 Vengeance per enemy you hit, so you might questionably use that in multi-target or not, depending on how well you can balance your Vengeance. Just be aware that they still want to do a second pass over it to polish bugs and more balanced fixes probably. With the Rogue, just some simple updates. Shadow of Demise basically got somewhat of a buff and a nerf. It's a buff outside of artifact calls, but it's a nerf inside artifact calls. And Shadow Opportunity temporarily increased, they say. Now on Rogue, there's some amusing bugs still persisting where you can kill players using Deft Strike from stealth targeting a player. You put Toxic Blades on them and so they will die eventually. That's on Assassin here, but you can stack that up. Yeah, don't get caught out. Maybe don't stand around in Protector's Enclave or some sneaky rogue will come and kill you. You see 10k per hit, 14k per hit, 19k per hit, and well, oops, she died. But you can revive them again. They won't be too happy with their skulls, that's to be sure. Now moving on to companions. The Apprentice Healer will now move closer to its targets to use Sunburst. This is a good thing as this will deal damage and heal people. So generally if you're closer to your target, you will get that heal. His damage really sucks. His healing is actually decent in that party and is also not bad at just healing the summoner. I guess he'll be a little bit more reliable now as he'll be closer to the targets. The next update is the Renegade Invoker, rebalanced as a hybrid companion, meaning he'll be a mix of single target and multi-target with his abilities. He might have been doing more damage than he should. We can check that out here in the advanced combat tracker and see how he does. I'll give the data at the end of the video when we've done testing. But moving on, the mount power, the Pegasus and the Noble Pegasus. This combat power has essentially been nerfed. We're dealing more damage and giving out more stats than other mounts of similar quality. The Forte bonus been removed. The damage has been adjusted to match other high-end AoE mount powers. The roll bonuses provided from the power has not been changed, so there'll be still a good support mount combat power. But essentially they were at 3000 magnitude, that's what it said. In actual reality that was 1800 reduced by your critical avoidance. And then allies would gain 15% Forte, and then you'd have a 15% bonus to your roll. Damage dealers get damage, etc. Now this has been reworked, so we now end up with only 1000 magnitude and no bonus Forte. A little bit sad to see, but yeah, just makes the Pegasus not any better than other multi-target mount powers, unless you consider the roll bonus, which in fact does make it better than most. Also, its area is pretty generous of how far it can still hit guys. Just again, it's not going to be such a big deal in terms of just raw damage. Let's say you're chasing the pain giver, then some other options that you may simply find on the auction house that, let's say, have also 1000 magnitude. That was the standard for a multi-target combat power, 1000. So it's being rebalanced to that same level. However, there is rumored a bug with that it can damage players. I messed around a little bit and couldn't find it being the case. Maybe they fixed it. With some items in economy, artifacts, the apprentice spoils. This is the inherent danger from your music box set. Will no longer apply extra damage to all nearby non-facing targets. Description was updated to better match how this actually works. We can see that in game just here. Now it says when you use a daily power for 10 seconds, your at will and encounter powers will do additional hit for 15% of the damage dealt. This hit only applies to enemies that are not facing you. There. That's as simple as that. Pretty clear cut now. Before, you were able to deal damage to enemies that you didn't actually hit with an at will or encounter. Just as long as they were within your proximity, they received 15% of all damage you dealt. Then the Mystic Bolt set just got a icon update and a proper description. And then the Abyss Conqueror's Mauler wrist guards. They had an issue where you could basically gain the damage bonus after every time you used the daily power rather than the 30 seconds it should have had. That's the set right here. Use a daily power. Next 3 encounter powers will deal 7.5% more damage. Rangers could use that and basically gain that damage bonus every time after they use, let's say, Disruptive Shot. But that's getting fixed. And, well, the Wild Space Slayer Overload enchantment should now properly deal additional damage in Wild Space maps. Now, in terms of the Renegade Evoker and how well does he perform, well, this is him right here. About 24,000 encounter DPS, nothing really special about him, fireball hitting up to 89,000. We can compare that to how he was, and he was pretty terrible. He now will rank 95th there in the single target document list. So still pretty bad in terms of that. We can go to check his multi-target damage, see how well he can kill all of these dummies. And well, he definitely seems to take his time at it. But he does rank him at about 25th position there. So he's not the worst, but compared to the top, he's not great. That is ultimately it for today's update. If you're a Fighter DPS, there should definitely be a lot of new things to play around with. And as for you rogues, well, enjoy a bit of a buff to Shadowy Opportunity, allowing you to deal even more damage. A massive thank you again to all of these channel members for their added support. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.